Thank you so much for joining us on a brand new episode of Footpod, where me, the one guy with the mic, the broadcaster, and I'm flanked on my left and right by two of the finest minds in Indian football. लेकिन इंडियन फुटबॉल की बातचीत नहीं हो गई, यहाँ पे बातचीत होगी यूरोपियन फुटबॉल की। रिचर्ड हुड है मेरे साथ, फ्लॉयड पिंटो है मेरे साथ। फ्लॉयड, आप कहाँ पे हो सर? पहले ये बता दो, क्योंकि आप ऐसे ही एक लीग पे काम कर रहे हो जहाँ पे ओए होए 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 होए, मतलब हमें जो चीजें इंडियन फुटबॉल में दिखती नहीं सब दिख रहा है वहाँ पे। क्राउड्स है, पागलपन है, क्रेज है। वेयर आर यू राइट नाउ, फ्लॉयड?
I am traveling up and down the coast of Kerala.
ब्यूटीफुल
Right
है।
from Kannur is left, but Kannur, Thrissur, right now in Malappuram. So there's a game tomorrow in Manjeri. Been to Calicut, then been to Kochi and Thiruvananthapuram as well. So right up and down the coast of
Just
Kerala.
sort of
Each
getting
and
you
every
into
game.
where we're planning to go, because it's such a high energy, high octane product that you're working on. Are they also playing a high line? Is someone playing a high line in that league?
Yeah, there are no lines. It's just anywhere and everywhere. Kerala is passion. Yeah, these guys play. That's what
Yeah.
I like. There's raw talent, there's raw energy, there's raw enthusiasm, and that the fans feed off it. More importantly, they're full. They come to watch their teams
Yeah.
and
That is
support their
a
teams. Even on
that
away
is really
games, there
nice to
is a
see.
nice contingent that comes. So it's interesting. It's nice, and there's a good
Okay.
competitiveness now in all the teams, and they have that urge. I want my district. I want my this to win. We had the
Hmm.
Malabar Derby last
Hmm.
time. That was superb. The rain added to the entire aura of the surroundings in Manjeri, and we got a
Hmm.
The other
3-3
clip
win.
is going viral, no? With the Dortmund commentary and whatnot. Amazing
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Are
So
you
that
are
was
you
nice.
also are your goal shouts also 5 minute long?
Oh no. I just do the breakdown of the goals.
Goal!
I just do the breakdown of the goals. That's it.
कोई नहीं
But
सर,
it was a
आपसे
fun game
breakdown.
to call. Yeah, it was a damn good game to call. Yeah.
Let's just say this, that there are all lines as far as where you're working right now, but जिस टीम के बारे में बातचीत करेंगे उनकी हाई लाइन. Okay, now so we're talking about Barcelona and Real Madrid. The El Clasico was played yesterday, and Real Madrid walked away as 2-1 winners. And it was an interesting game. From a neutral's perspective, अगर आप इस game को देखोगे, तो it was a nice watch. It was a good watch because in some aspects you would say दोनों टीम की defensive midfield was missing. तो मतलब जब एक दो पास दूसरी टीम तोड़ी आपने, you've broken through, and of course then you're finding a way to attack the goal. Eventually Real Madrid winning 2-1, but all the chatter has been about Barcelona's high line ever since Hansi Flick has taken over this Barcelona squad, and he had a very successful first season, and he did it with that high line. There were moments in that season last year जहाँ पे आप कह रहे थे देखो अब टूटे. Now people have figured out how to play this high line, but then they went on to do what they did last season. Won La Liga, they got to the semi-finals of the Champions League. Also, I think won domestic cups in Spain as well. And so he's continued with the high line this time, Richard. But this time, what's changed, sir? Because suddenly that high line, I'm guessing as a coach, Richard, if you prepare for a plan like this, to play a risky plan like this, I think both of you would agree it's a risky plan, irrespective of the pros and cons of it. That you would expect, say, if you're playing a 50 game season, that there will be 10 to 15 games where you will be found out. So you sort of take that into account going into the season if you're playing like this.
Yeah, I think from whatever we've read and seen, also this high line only works if there's instant pressure on the ball. There's a term known as open ball, close ball. Jo rehta hai. Open ball means that the person who is on the ball, he's got his view on everything that's ahead, or there is no pathway for the ball to. There is a clear pathway for the ball to go wherever he wants it to. Close ball means that there is some pressure on the ball that will either delay the person's decision or direct it. Matlab, they'll either send him left or right or force him to not take the most dangerous option. I think I don't know if it was allowed or not. Like in Bellingham, the one where he turned his closest marker and then played Mbappe through. If you look at that, I
Good
mean,
ball.
Barcelona, Real Madrid has got players of that quality all over the pitch. Guys who can just turn it on the coin and then play the ball through. And at these times, you really need to rethink in terms of what your high line is. And there are very few players like Mbappe who can work a line in terms of like drifting away, getting the defenders' attention towards himself, and then breaking through. Just the art of moving, let's say, left to right and then breaking through, or dropping down and then going away. I mean, there are very few players who can do it as well as him. So possibly, maybe The highline isn't a bad option as long as the press is working, as long as there is instant pressure on the ball, as long as you're not allowing these players to do what they do in terms of turning and then playing it across or through. So I don't think that if it worked last year, why isn't it working this year? That's
Yeah,
the other
why
question
is
you
it not
should ask.
working?
Na?
Exactly,
So
exactly.
last year
That's my
का अगर
point.
stats देखेंगे, Real Madrid got caught out 12 times offside, out of which 8 times was Mbappe on in the similar encounter, and this year it was just 5-2. Like Real Madrid only caught out 5 times. So I'm guessing they worked it out in terms of just the timing bit of it. क्योंकि
Yeah,
वो कब तक, and if you have fast athletic players, I mean, look at the pace that Real Madrid has got up front. You can really afford to work that offside trap and then break through, rather than taking the cautious approach. What if we do get caught offside or not? So they've certainly worked out that whole bit of movement and passes meeting each other and creating problems for them.
but Floyd, okay, before we get into what's not working, and I think he's sort of gone to where Real Madrid has done it. Okay, ना चलो Real Madrid मैं समझ रहा हूँ सर. आप you take Real Madrid saying कि यार ये टॉप टीम है, टॉप टैलेंट है, खोल सकते हैं हमको, हाईलाइन नो हाईलाइन जैसे भी हो, वो प्लेयर है वैसे वहाँ पे टीम है. But it's not just the Real Madrids. It's the teams before this as well. Teams you would look to beat in La Liga and you would look to beat comfortably in La Liga. Or the other way of looking at it is that time has run out for it. As in, before you get into the nitty gritties of it, have you ever heard of a team going and playing a season? Okay, I can understand a phase. इंजरीज हुई हैं, आपके टीम के लिमिटेशंस आई हैं, तो आपने एक तरीके से खेलने का एक आपने सोचा है. Have you ever heard of any team prior to this who's gone into the season playing such a high line और ढीठ कितना गए हैं, ये मार दो हमारे पे गोल, हरा दो, नो प्रॉब्लम, हम फिर आ रहे हैं वैसे.
Well, there was a very bad example of the high line with Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham. They played a very high line, but they relied on the likes of Mickey Van de Ven and
Romero.
what's the other defense? Yeah, getting back with their space. And the moment they got injured, that entire high line concept of theirs was gone. But you got to give it to Hansi Flick because it's not easy to play the high line, and he won. He won everything in Spain last season.
Yeah.
But what last season showed us is that against the top teams like the PSGs, the Liverpools, etc., the Bayern Munichs, when they come to that stage of a particular competition, they are going to be found out. This is not going to, it's not going to work at all because it's not only about it's about the coaches that are now in the modern game. If it was Carlo Ancelotti, perhaps this highline would have worked last season much better. But now you have a tactically astute coach in Xabi Alonso who just doesn't focus on how to defend, but he focuses with defending with respect to countering that highline, which changes the entire concept of the game. There's a degree of freedom, but Carlo Ancelotti had too much maybe. In all due respects, he was really good. But Xabi Alonso, to the T, would have planned this, and if they scored 2 goals because of that highline, they also had 2 goals chalked out due to offside and marginal offsides. The first goal would have been probably the goal of the game and the season was chalked off because of that offside. So there are pros and cons with respect to this highline. I don't think they're going to stop playing, but to play this highline, they need to play at a really, really high level of intensity with the ball and off the ball as well. Because with the ball, they push the opposition more closer towards their own goal. If they keep the ball really well and it's really high intensity, which they weren't doing versus Real Madrid, because there was something off with Barcelona in terms of their possession. They were too slow, they were too labored, they were too sideways. When that happens and when they are in doubt, then that high line is left, naked for the taking. Anybody can take that high line, and Real Madrid exploited it perfectly in that game.
But कब तक आप कैरी ऑन करोगे? ओके, जब तक रिजल्ट आ रहा है. आई रिमेंबर लास्ट सीजन देयर वाज अ फेज, आई थिंक 1.5 महीना का फेज था, व्हेन हाईलाइन वाज बीइंग फाउंड आउट, कुछ नहीं चल रहा था. So at that time chatter started again, कब तक, and then it started working, and then it didn't stop till the end of the season. Give credit where credit is due. Now again it started, so you can probably, the one way of looking at it is, look, it's happened last season, we went through a slump, and this is the start of the season right now. So what are you getting so worried about? We'll cover, because La Liga is still a 2-horse race in that sense. You don't have to worry too much about the other teams. But kab tak, Richard, like if so the other day, me and my friend, हमारे दाढ़ी वाले दोस्त एनी भाई, हम लोग बातचीत कर रहे थे ऑफ द हाईलाइन. And the pro of the high line, one that we saw was that if I am an opposition player, मेरे पास बॉल है और आप सब आगे चढ़े हुए हो, मैं देख रहा हूँ पीछे हाईवे खोला हुआ है आपने पूरा मेरे लिए, तो कहीं ना कहीं आप मेरे दिमाग में डाउट डाल रहे हो. मतलब मैं जो भी कुछ करना चाहूंगा पर मैं देखता रहूँ, अरे वो तो पूरा स्पेस खाली है, मैं डाल सकता हूँ. सो यू आर मेकिंग मी बिट्रे माई नॉर्मल गेम प्ले इन दैट सेंस. आई एम सेइंग ओके, ही सेइंग यार मैं नहीं देखना चाहता, नहीं देखना चाहता, आई कम प्रिपेयर्ड, आई मूव द बॉल हियर, आई मूव द बॉल देयर इन अ स्ट्रक्चर्ड वे, आई गो. बट सडनली आई एम सेइंग ये ले, आओ सर, मारो, जो करना है करना है. Is that one of the biggest pros of the high line? And would you go into a season say 50 55 games across 4 competitions, having just this one high line at all times? The consistent constant is one high line.
No, it's not just one high line. There are a lot of other tactics that are
sure.
co-dependent on it. But things like even reasons for maintaining a high line in the way Barcelona plays, especially Flick coming across and imposing it, commanding a high amount of possession on the ball, having these short, stringy passes, close layers of players to support the play. And minute they lose the ball, they press instantly, which is what lets the high line down. Like last year, agar dekhoge, I think they were the team that caused the most amount of offsides across all top 5 leagues of Europe.
Yes.
Their organization really worked. But that also works because playing a long ball also is a time-consuming technique. Agar ball ko lamba marna bhi hai, it is not as simple as one touch. You need to, most of the time, the long ball gets launched after controlling the ball and then putting it through. Matlab, very rarely will you see a long ball being played off your first touch, or maybe it's a clearance and things. So, ये जहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं कि बॉल मिल गया, मेरे को वो जगह दिख रहा है, then I can put it even if I don't want to. You're imposing or forcing them in a way to play that they don't want to. Even playing long is a time-consuming technique in terms of making up your mind and actually executing it. And Barcelona is really good at curbing that. क्योंकि जब तक बॉल कोई फ्री प्लेयर के पास चला गया, लोग उधर पहुंच के उसको प्रेस करने के लिए, then they force the ball either backwards or into shorter positions. That's when the backline can get a bit organized. The other bit also is that a high line also gets exposed during during a turnover. अगर ये transition हो गया, at that time when these players are really tight and technically, I mean, like something like a Real Madrid will expose you instantly, like especially when you have the technique in midfield and the athleticism on the forward line. ये दो combination के बीच में dangerous हो गई. And I think the article you had shared earlier, like people just stopped caring about it. Like that stat can be scary that Barcelona gets you trapped more than any other team in Europe. And BBC had a great article about how Harry Kane's tactic is now being used by La Liga strikers and the striker at PSG. Yeah, just stay back. Because it keeps getting the defenders to check where the striker is. And by the time you adjust the line, you can again move away, go away to the second post, then come into play a bit later while the quick break is still on the move, or the winger's got the ball, he gets time to charge down, and then you reposition yourself. So these aspects also strikers figure it out. And I think the major problem is what's happening away from the high line. That is, if Flick, we know for a fact that he is a bit not as flexible as most other managers. But the fact that Highline has been a constant feature of his throughout his career, but that will only work if the press is fixed. And then if you see the players who have been missing coming into this game, it's not his best 11 also in terms of how Rafinha brings in Dani Olmo. I think they mentioned some other defender who is a lot more, let's say, dogged and determined than what was on the field today, just in front of the back four. So even change in, let's say, people who are available and deployment of it. Tactics is 9 out of 10 times your ideal 11 pulling it off. उसमें अगर 3-4 changes आ जाएंगे, then you can't really affect it or make it come through the way you would want to. वो 2-3 changes भी it can cost you.
Because right
yeah, big miss is Inigo Martinez. He's gone to Al Nassr, right? He left at the last moment.
वो मर गया
at the start of the season, right?
अभी खेलने.
Exactly. Yeah, he was basically the experience, the leader in that back four, and that was a surprise. And they couldn't find a replacement. And none of the other players have been able to step up as well. And then you have the goalkeeper.
Because you need someone like that to tell you when to move up, right? You need someone
exactly
like that to make
that
sure
experience, a little bit of experience. Exactly. And then the goalkeeper as well. Although Szczesny is not that bad, but you get in a young sweeper keeper, and now he's out.
Especially something what Nagelsmann did with Bayern Munich in Germany. That's when a high line works like a dream. When you have someone who can play as a sweeper and do the job. यहाँ पे Szczesny बुजुर्ग है थोड़ा तो.
Just how intense can it be for a unit to play out a full season with this sort of a philosophy of playing the game? How intense can it be for a unit?
Very intense. It's a very intense because it requires concentration. It's not it's not more sort of a physically intense game, but it's more mentally intense to you, to make sure that you're scanning, make sure that, because you're always at a risk, you're putting yourself at a risk. It's like, I don't know, I can only give an example. For example, Klopp, when we played with Liverpool, that high pressing, gegen pressing style, it cannot sustain for more than maybe 2-3 seasons. The players get mentally frustrated. Pep Guardiola's Man City, how many seasons have players played the same style under him and then just gone, out of sync? They just want something different. They just want to be refreshed. So maybe this season, I think this would be the season where they'd be caught out again, but not now. In the the season's mostly done in the month of March, April, May. Those kind of
Alarm
times
bells
when you
right
can.
now. Alarm bells right now. No
I
alarm
don't
bells for
think
you.
the first alarm bell is this against Madrid,
Yeah.
where they faced a top team in a big derby and they were done by that high line. And then it'll come maybe in the big games like the semifinals of the Champions League or quarterfinals against the big teams, when they actually everything's at stake. Those kind of games where you have to win, those kind of games, I think that is where the final straw will come with respect to this high line. And then if you're not going to win the Champions League, or if you're not going to win the La Liga, and this year it looks like Xabi Alonso has got a good hold of La Liga with respect to the way he's shaping Real Madrid to play, then the pressure will be on Flick. So maybe it'll be another season, and after that, it'll be haywire.
What say, Richard? How long till?
I'm just saying, like, two alarm bells for
will
coaches
anything
are that.
change? Will it change if results continue like this?
I don't think there'll be a personal change or anything dramatic other than maybe looking
No,
at
even
something in
even
the Jan
Flick,
window.
even Flick being asked to say कि sir आप थोड़ा थांबा.
पता नहीं भाई, क्योंकि
चार-
दो चीज रहते हैं. That is, if one is if there is lack of clarity or lack of belief, that is players don't clearly understand what needs to be done. If that is established, then the belief kicks in. Like what he's asking us to do, we understand it and it will work. That willingness to put in the work, that entire belief that if we pull this off, we will get results. इसके साथ क्या होता है? Like lot of times when you keep Highline keeps getting exposed, and the doubt seeps into the players on the pitch as well.
Exactly.
Like, are we doing the exact? Are we using the ideal tactic or not? And that is where the coach needs to figure out in terms of maybe, like I said, the highline may not be sacrificed, but what happens away from the ball in terms of the pressing, the instant pressing that they require, maybe getting more possession and things. Because stats bhi agar dekhoge, the amount of possession that Real Madrid enjoyed was far less. But the final third entry, shots on target, all of that, what they did with the ball was far superior to what Barcelona did. And Barcelona, not at any point did it look like they came to impose themselves. Matlab, these games are usually high drama, high build up and things. Matlab, like whatever you call the El Clasico, the feel around it gets totally different because both teams bring the best. And yesterday you really didn't see Barcelona at its exact best, right? Matlab, what we get used to seeing in these games, that drama, or let's say the intensity from both teams seems to be missing. I mean, could be just watching it after knowing the score and stuff, but at least that didn't seem to be there.
Just for both of you, since both of you have run teams and both of you will continue to do so as well, जनरली क्या होता है कि आपका टीम का जो एक स्ट्रैटेजी बनती है वो बनती है पहले आप प्लेयर्स को देखते हो. यू से दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव एट माय हैंड, दिस इज द रॉ मटेरियल एट माय डिस्पोजल, and okay, now this is the best possible way to get the best juice or the maximum juice out of these so and so players. Floyd, if you had a team, when will you ever think that okay, now I have the right mix to go and play something like a high line over, okay, forget a season, but over a 10 game period, over a 20 game period?
No, it'll depend on the opposition as well here. And forget about our players. You're playing a high line is dangerous because the referees are not of that standard. So you play a high line and you do everything right. And you play it right, but you're not given offside, and then there's no VAR or anything like to save you, or then it's after the game again. So that's another issue. But for here, so if you're specific to Indian football, it'll take you at least a season for the players to understand what the coach wants first. And once they know exactly what you want, then you can start kind of playing a different kind of style with them. The best example I could give was when I worked with the AFF Academy, the group in which Anirudh Thapa was with. Anirudh Thapa, Jerry Lalrinzwala, these boys, they had a lot of experience playing with the AFF Academy already, representing India. And going abroad and playing a lot of these teams. So when I took them over, their basics, everything was so good. So I didn't have to work too much on their basics. I had to just work tactically with them. So that is one of the teams which I played a very high line with, because we had quick defenders, young, quick, physical
Yeah, that's what I
defenders.
was asking. Exactly. Characteristics, what are you looking for in a player
Yeah.
to say कि आप
Young,
high
quick,
line खेलेंगे?
physical defenders who who were very tactically aware of what to do, when to do. And it's not, and a lot of times when you say the high line, great, but what do you do when the high line is not working? How do you recover? Who covers up for whom? Where's the goalkeeper? You need to have him in the right position. And most probably goalkeepers, sometimes when they are out of position, they look very, very, awkward. So you need to have all those players in place. So in that group, just an example, in that group we had young players, quick, sharp players, physically good conditioned players, but who didn't mind taking a risk as well. They love to take a risk against any opposition. They were like, come on, bring it on, we'll do it. So when you have players playing with that confidence level, with that experience, then as a group, then you can take forward to say, okay, let's play a high line or let's take a risk.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful point here, Richard. है ना कि that when you're playing a risky strategy, let's admit that it is a risky strategy, no matter how well thought of, how well you may have trained, because दूसरी पार्टी भी तो आ रही है खेलने के लिए और वो उसको notice करेंगे. But the point is that if you want to play such a philosophy, such a way of football, then you need to take out that fear of failure. कि उस 90 मिनट के दौरान आपके उस हाई लाइन को तोड़ेंगे लोग. Courtesy of you not stepping up in time, you doing something somewhere wrong, and you got to get used to it. That वो टूट गया, no problem. Okay, how do you recoup, resurface, restart, and again get back on it again, right? How quickly you recover, basically.
Yeah, I mean, what you said, it's all about fine margins and stuff. Because if you talk about what Floyd mentioned in the beginning, वो offside हो गया था, that came off a scrap. That guy, as in he tried to clear it, it was an awkward clearance. Mbappe finished it on the bounce. That was also largely due to his position and where the ball bounced and how high the line was right then. That is a bit unusual in terms of the further up the opponent comes, that's when you drop off and regain space to organize and then keep the play in front of you. So वो बहुत बार इस गेम में दिखा नहीं. And if you're asking about when do you change things around purely from experience, again you have your base tactics in terms of what do you do when the ball is in certain parts of the pitch. And what Floyd had mentioned, that what if then when का एक sequence आ जाता है. If the ball is open, then already prepare to drop down. If the player has an option to play long, close off the nearest options. If those options aren't closed off, then it's another signal for the back line to organize and see who else is making the runs into their territory. So both are embedding these tactics more than time and stuff. You get intelligent players who are technically capable of doing certain things, physically capable of doing certain things, and then the whole part of coaching is to getting them to recognize situations and then acting on it.
Yeah.
That when the ball is here and this is where the opponents are, this is what we expect you all to do. और हर एक player और हर एक pass के साथ वो instructions बदल जाएंगे. Just as मतलब the clarity has to come through across all 11 players. And like you said, अगर 2-3 बार expose हो जाओगे, it's again rebuilding that belief in the tactic. And where else have you seen a breakdown? हो गया, no problem, ठीक है. But if you need to pinpoint, ना मतलब Hansi Flick's staff will have about 8 coaches. 5 analysts will be looking at every little bit of play that has broken down or worked for them. And you have either two options: to cull all that hasn't worked and repeat what has worked. And 9 out of 10 times repeating on loop what has worked for you, what has come out as a positive outcome of keeping the high line, the press being instant. Those are the examples that you'll want to reinforce, because एक बार sacrifice कर दोगे to revive the style of play or to bring the players back to that standard of working.
You're talking in game. You're talking in game, yeah.
इन गेम एंड मैनेजिंग द सीजन. मतलब ये एक बार हाथ से छूट गया, बहुत मुश्किल है वापस वो लेवल पे लेके आना. That is to say that I am making a compromise and stuff. So you ideally optimize all of your options, optimize all of your strengths, and then maybe look at the tweaks and stuff. But I don't think it will come anytime this season where the whole thing will be sacrificed and stuff. Because once the fit players are back in, the ideal 11 is there on the pitch again. People will say the high line definitely works. The same articles that were praising it last year, those might start getting written again and things. So बोल नहीं सकते हैं, मतलब ये
this high line is direct. This high line is also directly proportional to how you keep the ball as well. Because Hansi Flick, like Richard mentioned, likes his players to play. Can I take that phone?
आप उठा लो सर. वो हाई वो लो ब्लॉक वाले का फोन है.
अपने प्रोड्यूसर को बोलना है to cut at 24 minutes.
वो तो कर दूंगा उससे। वो उसको मैंने उसको बोला था भाई उसको काट देना जहाँ पे ड्रॉप है। सर ये एम्बापा, ये कौन है ये एम्बापा? मैंने कहा प्लेयर है भाई।
Mbappe.
हाँ जी सर, आ गए वो लो ब्लॉक वालों का आपने बोल दिया कि गेट लॉस्ट लो ब्लॉक।
हाँ, अब डिनर टाइम.
डिनर टाइम, ओके। हाँ जी, आप कह रहे थे।
No, this high line is also based on the quality of your ball possession. And what Richard mentioned earlier, if you see Hansi Flick's team in possession, they are so narrow. You would obviously, when you would ask, we ask our players, when you have the ball, what do you want to do? They will say make the ground big as possible. No, Hansi Flick's team makes it as small as possible. That's the new Barcelona, the way they play. So that, and in that
The
turn,
reason is so that when you lose ball, you're all nearby and you go and pounce
You
it.
form a net
and you're
instantly.
able to combine and penetrate vertically as much as possible in possession. And when you lose it, you're quick. So you need the players as well in that. And even if one person is off, is switched off, the entire system goes off. And the other point which Richard touched on as well, the Spanish or any coach, when they have that philosophy, it's very, very rare they will deviate from that. Now, I can go back to an example with Sergio Lobera. For me, he's the only coach in Indian football who says, I'm going to play possession and plays possession style football. And then we were struggling at the start of the season. We had lost a few important games. And then he asked all of us to analyze things. And when we analyze things, we all came up with the usual, oh, yeah, he's not in the right position. Okay, he should be here. Oh, no, Jahu is not here. But he was not focused on anything. He's saying, our philosophy is to keep the ball. Where have we made the mistake of not keeping the ball right? Who made that pass? Where could have we made a better pass? So he will not say, so Hansi Flick is not going to go back and say, no, the high line is not working. Okay, before the high line didn't work, where did we make that error? What could we have not done? Or what could we have done right so that this high line was not put at risk?
Rather than saying कि जड़ को निकालो, find out why the tree is not.
So that is the way they approach. So they are very firm. Once they believe that this is it, they are going to play it their entire. If he goes to another team, he's going to implement it again. So there's no scope of. Yeah.
Sorry, बात ये भी हो जाती है that everybody in the team is aware that we are playing a high line, and that has certain implications in terms of how you defend away from the back line, right? अगर anybody who's closest to the ball knows that my team has set up a high line, that means I need to press instantly. I need to reduce the time and space the opponents have on the ball. Defenders know that they're maintaining a high line. They need to track the runs better. So a lot of these things also, the route isn't always, let's say, the last part that people identify the play to have broken down. It usually is layered in terms of first line of press, first layer of press, second layer of press, where exactly it break down. And then you come to the root of it. मतलब बहुत बार जो last picture दिखता है, that is the least of the problems in terms of what exactly has happened or where exactly the problems lie.
And Barca have been used to playing this. This is part of their DNA, part of their philosophy right from the start. And Pep's this Barca team, for me, comes the closest to Pep Guardiola's Barca when they were dominant in Spanish football, with the style of play, with the philosophy, with the high pressing game, with winning the ball as high up the pitch as possible, playing an expansive game in that sense. So with a Hansi Flick touch, but it reminds me of that. Pep Guardiola, and they were playing high up. They were defending 1v1s at the back at that point of time as well. So it works well for Barcelona. The only thing is they have to, and they will learn as well. In the big games, they need to be even more aware of what they're doing, and because the stakes are going to be very high. And the first big game for me, they've lost out, so they'll be hurting.
I kind of agree with you because I feel like if you're I know your be all end all is to go on and compete and get as many trophies as possible, and that is a successful season for you. But for me, someone who watches football from afar, if you have a certain philosophy, and despite the rumblings that go around the philosophy, and कि मतलब it's never a straight line, because वो दूसरा वाला भी तो आया आपकी straight line को तोड़ने के लिए, but how quickly you don't deviate from that philosophy. For me, I think that's a great thing. So from a team's perspective, especially your top team like Barcelona, top 5 teams in the world, top 3 teams in the world, and you have a certain philosophy irrespective of win, loss, trophy cabinet or khali trophy cabinet, then you've got to respect that at least from a neutral's perspective.